today I will be presenting on the topic of consumer behavior, which is a central concept in microeconomics. This theory explores how consumers make choices when faced with limited income and unlimited wants. It helps us understand how demand is formed, how consumers respond to price and income changes, and how they prioritize their spending. At the heart of consumer behavior is the concept of utility, or the satisfaction a person gets from consuming goods and services. So, to better understand how consumers make decisions, we first need to look at utility. Total utility refers to the total satisfaction a consumer gains from consuming a product or service. Meanwhile, marginal utility is the additional satisfaction from consuming one more unit of the product. For example, if I eat one slice of pizza and enjoy it, that's my total utility. If I eat a second slice and still enjoy it, the extra satisfaction from that second slice is my marginal utility. However, this extra satisfaction tends to decrease as we consume more, which brings us to the next concept. Let's say I eat several slices of pizza. The first slice is very satisfying. Maybe I will rate it 10 utils. However, the second slice is still good, but not as amazing as the first slice. Maybe I will rate it 7 utils. Then the third slice is just okay, maybe about 4 utils. So as we can see, the total utility is increasing, but marginal utility is decreasing. This pattern reflects how our level of satisfaction changes as we consume more. So this brings us to the next slide, which is the slide for the law of diminishing marginal utility. It says that the more of a good we consume, the less additional satisfaction we get from each extra. Next slide, let's talk about consumer equilibrium. This is the point where a consumer distributes their income in a way that maximizes their total satisfaction. This happens when the satisfaction per ringgit spent is the same for every product they buy. If one product gives more satisfaction per ringgit than another, the consumer will spend more on that product until balance is achieved. For next slide, let's say a bar of chocolate gives me 20 units of utility and costs 4 ringgit. That's 5 utils per ringgit. And a cup of coffee gives 10 utils and costs 2 ringgit. Also 5 utils per ringgit. Since both give equal satisfaction per ringgit, I am in equilibrium. But if coffee gives me more satisfaction per ringgit than chocolate does, I would buy more coffee until satisfaction per ringgit is balanced across both items. So in conclusion, the theory of consumer behavior explains how individuals make rational decisions to get the most out of their income. The concept of total utility, marginal utility, and diminishing marginal utility are all essential in understanding this process. Consumer equilibrium ensures that income is used in the most efficient way possible. This theory is important not only for individual choices but also for helping businesses understand consumer demand and guiding government policies to improve consumer welfare.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Saida Shazamani. Today I will be presenting the theory of economic distribution, which focuses on how income and rewards are distributed among the four main factors of production, which are land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. Understanding different factors of production and reward is key to analyzing income distribution in any economy. In a competitive labor market, labor wages are set through the process of supply and demand, influenced by productivity and mobility and policy. Land, capital and entrepreneurship receive income through rent, interest and profit, each with its own determining factors. Together, these mechanisms shape how resources and income flow within the economy. The theory of economic distribution explains how income is allocated among the factors of production: labor, land, capital and entrepreneurship. Each factor contributes differently to the production process and is rewarded accordingly, which determination in a perfectly competitive labor market plays a central role alongside other forms of income such as rent, profit and interest. In a perfectly competitive labor market, wages are determined by the interaction of labor supply and labor demand. Employers act as wage takers, meaning they accept the market wage rate and cannot influence it. On the demand side, labor is hired based on the marginal revenue product or MRP, the additional revenue generated by employing one more worker. As As long as MRP is the wage rate, the firms will continue to hire. Labour supply is based on individuals' willingness to work at various wage levels. The equilibrium wage is established at the point where the quantity of labour supply equals the quantity demanded, eliminating both labour shortages and surplus. There are several factors affecting wage equilibrium. First one would be productivity, which more productive workers have higher MRP and tend to earn higher wages. The second would be labour availability, where a larger or more waiting labour force can shift the supply curve. The third factor would be skill level, where specialised or highly skilled workers command better pay. And the fourth factor is mobility, where geographic and occupational mobility allows workers to respond to job opportunities. The fifth factor will be government intervention, where policies such as minimum wage laws and tax incentive can influence wages. And the last or the sixth factor would be trade unions, where they can negotiate high wages or improve conditions through collective bargaining. Wages in this market are influenced by both market conditions and institutional factors, even in a perfectly competitive setting. Apart from labour, other factors of production, which are land, capital, and entrepreneurship, receive income in the form of rent, interest and profit. Rent is the return to landowners for the use of land or natural resources. According to Ricardian theory, rent arises due to differences in the fertility or productivity of land. Land that is more fertile or better located is higher output and thus higher rent. In contrast, modern theory views rent as any payment over and above what is necessary to keep a factor in its current use, known as economic rent. For example, if landowners are willing to rent out land for 500 ringgit but receive 800 ringgit, the additional 300 ringgit is considered economic rent. Profit is the income received by entrepreneurs for organizing the other factors of production and taking on business risks. It can be separated into first is normal profit, which is the minimum level of earnings required to keep an entrepreneur in the business. It is treated as part of a firm's cost. And second would be economic profit, which is any return above all costs, including nominal profit. It represents a true surplus and often results from efficiency, innovation, or competitive advantage. Economic profit can signal opportunities for growth but may attract new entrants into the market, driving profits down over time in a competitive environment. Interest is the reward for the use of capital. It is paid by borrowers to lenders and reflects the time value of money. Interest plays an essential role in capital markets by directing the flow of funds from savers to investors. High interest rates tend to encourage saving while discouraging borrowing. Lower interest rates have the opposite effect, stimulating investment and spending. Interest also compensates lenders for the risk involving in lending and serves as a tool for measuring opportunity costs in capital allocation decisions.
Hi, for this slide, I will be explaining what policy recommendations are. First, let's understand what a policy is. Policies are under formal rules or guidelines made by organizations, governments, or institutions. Their main purpose is to help guide decisions and actions. Basically, they explain what people are expected to do, what they are allowed to do, and what is not allowed in certain situations. For example, a dress code policy at the workplace tells the employee how they should dress. A tax policy by the government sets out how much tax people or businesses need to pay. So when we talk about policy recommendations, it means giving suggestions to create new policies or improve existing ones to solve problems or make things better. Next, let's look at how government policies and economic strategies can help improve consumer welfare and income distribution. There are a few common approaches that governments often use, such as implementing minimum wage laws, using income-based tax systems, providing subsidies for essential goods and services. These policies aim to reduce inequality and make life more affordable, especially for lower income groups. Let's look at the first policy, which is minimum wage laws. This is where the government steps in to set a legal minimum wage that employers must pay their workers. The main goal is to protect employee rights and ensure they receive a basic income. From a consumer welfare point of view, this policy helps low-income workers afford their daily needs, which improves their standard of living. In terms of income distribution, minimum wage laws help reduce the wage gap between the rich and the poor. In Malaysia, the minimum wage will be 1,700 ringgit starting February 1st, 2025. For companies with 5 or more employees or those in professional services, from August 1st, 2025, this will be extended to all companies regardless of size. What's the impact? In short term, business might experience increased costs, but in the long run, it can lead to fairer wealth distribution, stronger consumer spending, and a healthier economy overall. Next is income-based tax rates, where the government charges higher tax rates for higher income levels. This helps fund public services like healthcare and education, improving consumer welfare for everyone. Malaysia uses a progressive tax system. For example, 0% tax for income up to 5,000 ringgit and up to 30% for those earning over 2 million ringgit. The goal is to make sure high earners contribute fairly, reduce income inequality, and support government spending for public benefit. Now let's look at subsidies for essentials. This is when the government lowers the cost of basic needs like food, healthcare, and housing. It directly improves consumer welfare by making essentials more affordable, especially for low-income families. In Malaysia, the 2024 budget saw a 16% increase in subsidies and social aid, reaching 61.4 billion ringgit, and public sector wages rose by 4.4% to 99 billion ringgit. This strategy reduces the cost of living, supports vulnerable groups, and improves access to basic services for everyone. Next, I will discuss on suggestions to enhance wage fairness, regulate rent, and optimize profit distribution. To improve wage fairness, we can start by replacing minimum wage with a living wage that matches real living costs. Next, the National Wages Consultative Council should play a stronger role in reviewing and adjusting wages regularly. We should also require wage transparency, where companies must state salary ranges clearly in job ads. Gender pay gap reporting should be made compulsory to expose unfair differences between male and female pay. And finally, we need to encourage union negotiations so workers can fight for fair wages and protections together. To regulate rent, we can introduce rent control policies, like setting a limit of 3 to 5% on yearly increases tied to inflation or income growth. Rent transparency is also key. Landlords should disclose rent history, and the public database should show average rental prices by the area. Lastly, standardized rental agreements from the government can protect tenants by clearly outlining rights and preventing hidden charges of exploitation. To optimize profit distribution, we can apply the marginal productivity theory, distributing income based on each input's contribution, like labor or capital, to ensure fairness and efficiency. Next, profit maximization through cost efficiency helps increase profits by minimizing waste and using resources wisely. Tools like cost-benefit analysis can guide better decisions. Lastly, with elasticity and pricing strategies, if demand is inelastic, firms can charge higher prices, which increases profits, and this allows for better distribution through dividends and employee benefits. Thank you for watching.